Welcome to Philo-Psych. You think you understand women? You think you've seen enough, loved enough, been hurt enough to figure them out. But the truth is, most men never really get there. Not because women are inherently mysterious, but because the truths about them are buried deep beneath what we want to believe. And what we want to believe is far more comforting than what reality gives us. This isn't going to be a rant. It's not about blame. It's about what's actually there, what's hiding beneath the surface, the real truth. And for that, we'll have to go to the dark corners of the human soul. The kind of places Dostoevsky spent his life exploring, where love and cruelty, beauty and madness live side by side, where no one is innocent and no one is simple. Dostoevsky didn't write fairy tales. He wrote about people at war with themselves, tormented, irrational, driven by forces they can't even name. And when he wrote about women, he didn't flatter them. He didn't demonize them either. He simply showed them as they are, not as society paints them, not as idealized saints or heartless manipulators, but as human beings, caught in their own internal contradictions, just like men, but shaped by a very different kind of pain. The truth is, women don't just experience life differently. They calculate it differently, not always consciously, but instinctively. Because for most of history, they didn't survive by force. They survived by navigating human nature, by reading emotions, by leveraging attachment, vulnerability, desire. Not because they're weak, but because the world never gave them the option to be anything else. That's why, even today, women are far more attuned to emotional cues, far more aware of social dynamics, and far more capable of adjusting their persona to match what a situation demands. What you see on the outside is rarely the full story. And if you believe that what she says is always what she means, or that her actions are always what they appear to be, you're already lost. Dostoevsky once wrote that the mystery of human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for. For many women, that something becomes love, but not love in the poetic sense. Love as power, love as leverage, love as the currency that decides her worth, in a world that still evaluates her by who she can attract and who she can keep. And this is where things get dark, because most men think women want love the way they do, as a haven, as a refuge, as validation. But for many women, love is a mirror, and not a gentle one. A mirror that reflects who they are, how much power they hold, and what they're worth. If she feels ignored, that mirror cracks. If she feels adored, it glows. And if she senses that you need her more than she needs you, the mirror shatters. Because in that moment, love is no longer power. It's pity. This is why so many men get confused when a woman pulls away after he opens up, after he finally becomes soft, vulnerable, honest. He thinks this will bring them closer, but instead, she starts to seem distant, less warm, less interested, and he blames himself, thinking he did something wrong, but he didn't. He just broke the illusion. He stopped being a challenge. He stopped being the puzzle, and in doing so, he lost the very tension that made her feel alive. Dostoevsky understood this deeply. His female characters aren't villains, but they are dangerous because they feel everything, because they see through people, because they can love and destroy in the same breath. They don't even always mean to, but they know how to hit the nerve, how to punish without violence, how to create doubt with a glance. That's power, and it terrifies men who think love should be safe. The real truth about women is this: they can love you completely while also testing you relentlessly. They can want to nurture you and also want to watch you suffer just to see if you'll survive it. They can be tender and then cold, warm, then indifferent, and it's not always calculated. Sometimes it's just the chaos of their emotional landscape, a storm even they don't fully understand. But most men don't want to believe that. They want to believe in consistency, in logic, in linear behavior. But female psychology is more like music than math, rhythmic, dynamic, filled with crescendos and silences and sudden changes in key. Try to control it, and it breaks. Try to predict it, and it laughs. This is not a condemnation of women. It's a wake-up call for men. Because if you go into love blind, expecting it to be easy, rational, or fair, you will be dismantled. You will hand over your identity for approval. You will shape yourself around what you think she wants. And in doing so, you will become invisible to her. Not because she's cruel, but because she cannot respect what does not stand on its own. Dostoevsky's men fall apart around women. They obsess, they spiral, they beg, they rage, because they don't understand the rules. They think love is about expression. But for many women, love is about containment. It's about how much of yourself you can hold back. It's not how loudly you say, "I love you." It's how stoically you endure not knowing if she loves you back. And here's the hardest truth of all. Women want to feel your strength, not just your kindness, not just your affection, but your inner solidity, your ability to withstand pressure without collapsing, your refusal to chase approval like a dog chasing a bone. Because deep down, even the most independent woman still wants to lean on something that won't fall apart under her weight. She may never admit it. She may even deny it. But she's watching, testing, evaluating not just your love, but your spine. This is why so many women lose interest in men who worship them. Because worship is submission, and submission is weakness. And even if she likes it at first, over time, it erodes the very polarity that makes attraction possible. She doesn't want your devotion if it costs you your dignity. She doesn't want your world to revolve around her. She wants you to have your own orbit, and for her to choose to step into it. That's why the men who suffer the most in love are not the cold ones, or the distant ones, or the selfish ones. It's the sensitive men, the open-hearted ones, the ones who gave everything, who thought love meant sacrifice, who thought if they just proved how deeply they care, it would be enough. But women don't fall for effort, they fall for energy. And energy comes from mystery, tension, distance. Not too much, but just enough to keep her reaching, just enough to keep her wondering if she really has you. Dostoevsky wrote about that torment, about men who craved love, but resented needing it, about women who could love you and ruin you in the same sentence, not because they're evil, but because they're human, and complex, and broken, just like you. The real truth about women is that they are both fragile and ruthless, gentle and cunning, compassionate and calculating, and pretending otherwise does no one any favors. If you want to love a woman, not the fantasy, not the projection, but the real thing, you have to first accept her shadow, the parts of her that manipulate, that test, that punish, that don't always know what they want, and then you must meet that shadow with your own. You don't become powerful by avoiding pain. You become powerful by confronting it, by knowing that you could collapse, but you don't, that you could become soft and spineless, but you choose strength. And that strength, more than anything, is what she feels in her bones. Not your words, not your declarations, but your presence, your restraint, your silence in the face of chaos, your ability to love her without needing her. That's what makes a man unforgettable. And that's what makes a woman fall, not because she's conquered, but because she's finally met someone who cannot be shaken. That's the real truth. Not easy, not romantic, but real. And that's the only kind of truth worth knowing.